Today we can finally reveal the actual performance of AMD's highly anticipated Ryzen 5000 series Zen 3 based CPUs, which the company is releasing today. Specifically, I'll be reviewing the Ryzen 9 5900X, but you can also see my review of the Ryzen 7 5800X in my separate article. This is a huge launch for AMD and could well see it eclipse Intel in performance, with the company posting some bold benchmark numbers. The Ryzen 9 5900X and Ryzen 7 5800X have been dished out to reviewers, but the Ryzen 5 5600X and Ryzen 9 5950X have only just landed, so my reviews for those will be published shortly. To start with, here's a recap of the specifications and prices of AMD's 4th Gen Ryzen, Zen 3, CPUs. You can see more information on why the new CPUs are faster below, but the specifications may appear to be roughly similar to the previous generation, at least in core counts. The flagship Ryzen 9 5950X still has 16 cores, while the Ryzen 5 5600X still has 6 cores, the same as their predecessors. The differences are thanks to 3 key improvements. As you're about to find out, in spite of no core count increases, Zen 3 has seen a huge performance boost compared to Zen 2. Firstly, frequencies have increased. The flagship Ryzen 9 5950X, for example, can hit a peak boost frequency of 4.9 GHz, compared to 4.7 GHz with the Ryzen 9 3950X. Meanwhile, the Ryzen 9 5900X that I'm reviewing here could reach an all-core boost frequency with my cooling of 4.1 GHz, which is between 50 to 100 MHz higher than the Ryzen 9 3900X. This is largely thanks to a more refined 7nm manufacturing process. Secondly, the design of the CPU's innards has changed. Zen 2 used core complexes CCX, made up of 4 cores and 16 MB L3 cache apiece. 2 CCXs were added to each compute die CCD, making up an 8-core CPU, with 2 CCDs present on 12 and 16-core models. The trouble is that some core-to-core and core-to-cache communication would inevitably mean linking to other CCXs, which introduces latency. With Zen 3, AMD has doubled the number of cores in a CCX from 4 to 8 and unified the L3 cache, giving all 8 cores access to it and each other. The L3 cache available in the CCX is now 32 MB compared to 16 MB before, and all 8 cores now have direct core-to-core communication too. This cuts latency and reduces the need to access system memory, which should result in wide-ranging improvements, in particular in games, and is one area Intel CPUs have usually had an edge, especially when dealing with powerful graphics cards and high frame rates. It's a similar move to what AMD did with 3rd Gen Threadripper, and with devastating consequences, for Intel at least. While the core counts and manufacturing process remain the same, there is one final area that AMD has improved to bring about big IPC improvements.